Hey, you guys, welcome back to Ramon at Home. I'm so excited you're here today. Well, because in today's video, we continue our fall series, and I'm going to share with you 5 super simple and super affordable DIYs for fall that I know you can replicate. My intention here is for you guys to create beautiful pieces for your home this fall season. So if you want to create beautiful fall DIYs that are affordable and easy to make, please stay tuned. Don't forget to like the video and share with your friends on Facebook and on Instagram and on WhatsApp. Why? Well, because it is free and it really helps this channel. And if you already subscribed, don't forget to turn the notification bell on because you will not want to miss what's next for the fall season 2026. Are you guys ready to get creative? Well, let's get started with a gorgeous fall wreath on a diamond shape DIY. Let's take a look. Okay, so now that you've gotten to the point where you ran out of your ribbon, what you need to do is just grab your hot glue gun, put 2 little dabs of glue, and now I'm gonna give you a secret. You wanna use the least amount of glue that you can for this particular wreath because you're really not actually wasting your ribbon, so you can actually recycle it for next projects coming up for the holiday season or even other fall projects. If you get tired of your wreath, then just go ahead and put this one apart and make another one, and just make sure, like I said, not to put a whole bunch of glue on your wreath. That way when you take it apart, well, it's super easy. And as you guys can see, it's only gonna take 2 of the bolts of ribbon from the dollar store. I'm gonna continue wrapping this and I'll be right back. Stay tuned. Okay, so we have finished covering the perimeter of our square wreath that we're gonna use as a diamond shape. So I'm gonna hang it right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab some of this gray foam, and it's worth noting that it's the kind that is gray and it is special and made for florals. I like to recycle it, so I already went ahead and cut a little piece of it with my florist knife. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna add a little dab of glue right here in the middle. Just be generous because we really want it to stick to our foam, to our ribbon right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab my foam, do like a diamond shape like this, and I'm gonna hold it for a few seconds so it really hangs on to my ribbon right here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab one of these pieces of ribbon, the accent ribbon that I'm going to use, and I'm gonna go ahead and tie it right here with this because we're gonna use it to tie the ribbon with, and also it's gonna help stick the foam into the glue right here. So I'm gonna just give it a little knot like that, and then I'm gonna forget it just to hold that in place. All right, so now the next step is going to be to make a little bow. And I already have a tail right here that I pre-cut that I'm gonna just let hang out, and it's probably about 24 inches. So I'm gonna put it to the side, and then I'm gonna start a little bow right here. I want it to be on the smaller side because I'm gonna add some elements that I don't want the bow to really overpower. So make sure you spin around and just play with your ribbon as you go to make it look very floppy. Now, I know you guys enjoy making bows, and some of us are so bow challenged, myself included. But here's the thing, it does not have to be perfect to be beautiful. So as long as you love it, that's what decorating is all about, you guys. If you love it, then it's perfect, because if you let other people determine what your decor is, then it's their decor and not yours. So you should really enjoy your decorating, your projects and DIYs, without really caring what other people think about them, because if it makes you happy, that's all that matters. All right, so I'm gonna cut right here. I will dovetail in a second. Then I'm going to introduce my tails. They're gonna go down like that. And as you guys can see, now we have some longer tails. And I'm gonna use just a little wire to secure all of this together so I can fluff, because we're gonna use the ribbon to tie it together. So just make sure you do a little swirl real tight, and that way you can play with your ribbon and fluff it. Now let me make sure that I dovetail this before. You know, I'm always telling you that if I come to your home and your ribbons are not dovetailed, I'm gonna do it for you with your own scissors. Well, it's happened to me before when people come to my home and are like, oh, your ribbons are not dovetailed. All right, so now that that's at that stage, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab this ribbon that we tied the foam with, and I'm going to go ahead and give it another knot right here, really tight like this. And as you guys can see, now we have all of these tails. They are up. How cute is this? I absolutely love it. And what that's gonna do is gonna hide our foam from our wreath. All right, everyone, so I have these cute little foliages that I found at my local 99-cent store, and I just love the color. I think it goes really well with this ribbon. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna just separate them, and I'm gonna cut a few of them. I only need like 3 of these cute little picks. Actually, I'm gonna do 4. I'm gonna set the rest apart because you know I like to store my foliages. And then I have some of these eucalyptus that I'm also going to cut, and I have 3. I'm gonna get rid of that stem. And I have some of these longer pick right here, and I'm also going to go ahead and cut. So I'm gonna give it a cut right here, and this is where our foam comes really handy. Look at that. How awesome is that? So I'm gonna do another one on the other side. Let's see. What I like about this is it has a wire, so really you can make it floppy, you can make it dense, you can just give it a little bend like that. Look, I'm gonna go ahead and add right here. How fun is that? It just goes forward, and then I'm gonna do one over to this side. And having that foam right there, it really helps you place the foliage anywhere you want without having to compromise your placement of your foliage. So now I'm gonna use some of this eucalyptus to continue going down. At this point, if you wanted to glue it, you could. I'm not going to because you guys know I like to recycle all of these materials like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna fill in with some of this foliage right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and go around the perimeter of my bow, making sure that I fluff all of this pretty foliage. Remember, what happens on the left happens on the right. You guys have heard me say that many times. And look at this. How awesome is that? All right, so I'm gonna add one coming down from in the middle. Just make sure you find that foam. Look, it gives you all of that space to add items to your wreath. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this pumpkin right here, and I want it to be right here in the middle. So I'm gonna split my bow. I'm gonna open my bow and find that foam. Just insert my pumpkin right there. Look at that. We'll fluff at the end. Then I have 2 sunflowers. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna add one here on the top, like that, and then I'm gonna add yet another one over here, behind the bow. And this is how simple it is to really make a gorgeous wreath. So now what I need to do is just go ahead and fluff all of my tails, bring my dovetails forward, make sure they show. All right, before we continue, I want to mention that right now we are doing our live sessions on Facebook on my private group, Ramon at Home Masterclass, where you can guys see wreaths like this done live and step by step. So if you want to join, just come over to Facebook, look for the post that is pinned to the top, and you can find the instructions on how to join. Okay, so step number 1 is going to glue 2 of these blocks of foam into your tray. And I always like to leave the little package because when they crumble, then you don't have to deal with a mess. And then the other thing I went ahead is I just added a little bit of moss around my mechanics. So that way when I add my garland, if there's any spots that I missed, then you won't really be able to see them. So what I want you to do now is you're gonna go ahead and grab this garland and you're gonna put it down like this. And then you're going to go very tightly, very, very tightly. You're gonna grab 2 bristles, one on each side right here. And as tight as you can, you're gonna go ahead and tie this together to make it one and stay. And this is a tricky part because you have to make sure that you go over those corners because that's how that's going to stay. As you guys can see, it'll stay right here. Once you have your garland in place and it's all tied together, what you need to do is you need to start fluffing your garland to make sure that you have enough of these bristles to tie the rest of the elements in and covering some of that base on your centerpiece. Okay, so the next step is going to be to add some of this burlap ribbon from the dollar store. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go ahead and just pinch right here. As you guys can see, it's already dovetailed. And I'm gonna use my bristles and I'm gonna give them a little bit of a give probably about a 4-inch give, and then I'm going to grab 2 more bristles of this garland. And that's why I like to use this garland for my fall projects, whether it's a swag, a wreath, or anything that you're making, because as you guys can see, you can use those bristles to really attach any element to your centerpiece. And this is going to be really, really elegant, not cheap looking, full decorating ideas for your home. All right, so I'm gonna do one more right here. And as you can see, I'm going all the way into the garland, doing one loop, one more right here. And I'm gonna go as far in right here into the garland, so it looks like it's coming out of the garland. And I'm gonna cut right here. Once I cut, I'm going to dovetail, just so that if the ribbon is showing, like right here, it's finished. So now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab this other ribbon, and I'm gonna start on the opposite side right here. So I'm gonna dovetail, and then I'm going to pinch as far in as I can and attach. And I want that to really show. And I'm gonna make this one closer to the foam so you can really see it. And as you guys can see, the loops are overlapping as I go. They're kind of on the same spot, but because one is higher than the other one, they overlap and they look like that you put them together at the same time, but you really didn't. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do another one right here. And because this is wired, you can always go back and fluff at the end. I'm always telling you to fluff at the end. I'm gonna do one more loop right here, and they are probably about 4 to 5 inches if you are wanting to replicate. Well, if you've been following the channel, you know that I like to cut all of my foliages at the same time, because that way it's faster. You do not have to go back and cut all of your stems one by one. So I'm gonna go ahead and dip my trash over here. And what I'm going to do at this moment, I'm gonna bring my candle back in. I'm gonna put it right here in the middle. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with this really pretty boxwood, and I'm gonna start right here in the corner, and that's what's gonna give our shape. Making sure that goes in that foam so you don't lose your foliages. At this point, if you wanted to glue it, you could, but you guys know that I like to recycle my materials so that way that I can show you more projects. I'm gonna do one right here on the top. Then I'm gonna remember what happens on the left happens on the right immediately, so that way it's balanced. As you guys can see, I started right here on the right, I moved to the left in the same spot, then I did one to the top, one to the right here, and then I'm gonna do one right here in the front. But because I ran out of this particular foliage, what you need to do is immediately switch foliages and then go over to the other side where you added foliage right there. And then I'm gonna add one of these right here on the top, and I'm gonna move over to this side right here, making sure that goes all the way into the foam. And remember, you can always fluff those foliages, those ribbons at the end. And this is starting to take shape. I love the way that the Christmas garland really helps me create a more full feel to it. Remember what happens on the right, we're going immediately to the left, and that's what's going to really elongate our shape. And I have one more right here that I'm going to add to the front. All right, so then we're gonna move into this oak foliage. I think it's an oak. And this is what's gonna help us really fill in and cover some of this Christmas garland. I'm gonna go over here. Starting to take shape. As you guys can see, it's super easy. All you have to do is repeat the steps. What happens on the left happens on the right, and immediately move over to this side and insert over to this side like that. I love the foliage color on this because it looks like they're turning, and that is my favorite thing. I remember when I lived in Kansas and I used to go running, and my favorite time to run was of course during the fall, because you could see all of the trees and all of the evergreens just turning colors, and it was just the most beautiful sight. All right, so I'm gonna insert one right here. All right, everyone, so I have a few sunflowers that I'm going to insert right here. I'm gonna start right here on the top, and make sure that you go sideways so you can really go into that foam, and you want to make sure that you go all the way down. So remember, what happens on the right happens on the left. So I'm going to swirl all the way around, and I'm going to repeat the exact same step, cut a corner from that one, and I'm going to go sideways like this, And then I'm going to go ahead right here on the bottom. So I'm going to give this one a little curve so it goes up. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab and just insert right there. Then I'm gonna move it immediately over to the other side, giving it a little curve with 2 of my fingers. I'm gonna put this one right here on the bottom. And what I want to do now is I'm going to add some of these beautiful pumpkins, lifting my ribbon up. Look at that. Then I'm gonna move over to the other side. And I'm going to insert one right here, making sure that goes all the way down. And then because I only have 3, I'm gonna add a triangle. So I'm gonna add this one over on this side. So far, so good. But what's really going to make this centerpiece fly off your table is going to be the flyaways. And for that, I'm going to use some of this bittersweet. And I'm gonna start by adding 2 on this side. And I love the way this bittersweet pulls the orange from the ribbon, and it just gives it that flyaway effect that you guys know I love. I don't do a centerpiece, a wreath, or a lantern without any flyaways because I feel like they really just add that really beautiful natural look. And if you live in an area that you know where the bittersweet grows wild, you know, it like hangs on to fences and it's just so pretty. And it just twists and turns, and it's just one of my favorite things about fall in the Midwest. I'm gonna add one right here. Then I'm gonna add another one over facing this side, like this. Okay, so I just wanna show you what the centerpiece looks like with all of the beautiful bittersweet, the hurricane and the candle, the pumpkins, the sunflowers, and all of that foliage that looks like it's turning in the wild. I cannot wait to read your comments, so leave me a comment down below. When I started this channel, I used to do so many Dollar Tree DIYs, and this fall little arrangement was one of my favorite ones. It is super simple and affordable. Let's watch. Okay, so to get this fall DIY ready, what we're going to do is we're gonna grab our container and I'm gonna drop all of this rock inside of it. Now I want to explain to you why I'm doing this. When you buy a floral arrangement at the store and if you pick it up and it's very light, well, it doesn't really feel like it costs much. However, when you give your arrangement some weight and you pick it up and you have that beautiful arrangement, plus it's pretty heavy, people are willing to pay more. So it kind of tricks the mind to think that it's worth more just because it's heavy. All right, so once we drop our rock, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my gray foam right here. And as you guys can see, it pops out and that's where our moss comes in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lock it in place using some of this moss. I want to be generous because being generous, it's the way to go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish over on this side like this. And as you can see, it really locks in your container. And you guys know that I just like the wild look. When I worked as a florist for many years, we used to love this look because it looks more natural when it's spilling forward like this. And it just looks so much more pretty. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab my wire cutters and I'm gonna start trimming some of this right here. I want to go ahead and use this to go all the way around my perimeter. And I want them to spill forward like this. So what happens on the left happens on the right, keep that in mind. And I'm gonna spin it around a little bit and I'm gonna repeat the process right here. Remember, I want them to spill forward because the pumpkin is rather large. I'm gonna go ahead and add one right here to the side, like that. And then I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna give it a little bend like this to make sure that it spills down, like this. I'm gonna save one for when we put our pumpkin in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna do the same with this maple foliage. So I'm just gonna go ahead in the spots that I didn't have in between. It's gonna continue to spin around and just go in between like that. A few more. Thumbs up if you guys are enjoying this fall season, and also don't forget to follow me on my Instagram for daily Insta stories, behind the scenes, and all the things that you don't get to see here on YouTube. All of the links to the social medias are linked down below. Right now we're posting over on Instagram daily tips. All right, so I'm gonna add one more here. And that helps us cover our perimeter. That looks really pretty. Now I'm gonna go back to the fact that I have one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab my pumpkin and I'm gonna use this skewer. I'm gonna cut it probably about in half. And I always like to save the other halves. I always put them away because we just never know when you want to extend the shape of a floral. So then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab my pumpkin And then I want to go ahead and add this skewer, but I want to add it kind of catty corner like that. You guys can see it has an angle. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pumpkin right there. Look how easy that was. So then what I'm going to add is the other one that I have right here, so it's closer to my pumpkin. My pumpkin. Okay, so far so good. Then what I want to mention is these picks. They come from the dollar store and they come all wrapped like this. As you guys can see, it has some foliage, some berries, a little pumpkin. But what I like to do is I like to just go ahead and take that tape off and make myself some individual foliages. Look at this. Just take the paper off. Don't be afraid, they're only $1. And look, they are going to be good to fill in, add some berries to my bouquet, like that. How fun was that? Look, I have another one that I'm going to totally take apart. And all of this, you just pay $1 for it. Well, why not use it as more than just one pick? I have a little pumpkin, have some foliage. I have a berry right here. So I'm gonna go over to this side. I'm gonna add another berry right here. This is a super easy project. Then I'm going to grab this guy right here, but I'm gonna go ahead and save it because I want to go ahead and add this peony right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the flower from the stem and I'm gonna grab my glue and I'm gonna add just a little dot right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna add it right here to my pumpkin, like that. And with the foliages that I took out, I'm also gonna grab my glue and then I'm going to add into my pumpkin. Okay, so I just want to show you real quick how beautiful this turned out to be. It was so easy, so affordable, and I just love the way this looks, and it is perfect for the fall season. I cannot wait to show you guys how this is going to be used in a beautiful lantern coming soon. Stay tuned. Okay, so fall to me, it's all about the oranges and the auburns and the greens, but sometimes I like to create some neutral DIYs for fall using the beautiful bounty of the fall season. In this little DIY, I'm going to share with you how to create a super cute truck arrangement. Okay everyone, so the very first thing we need to do is get our mechanics ready, and for that I have a block of grape foam, and remember this is florist foam that is designed for silk flowers. But what I have done already is I cut about I want to say a fifth of the foam with my trusty florist knife, and then I'm going to go ahead and use this guy right here. I'm going to put some glue and just make sure that you are very generous because you don't want your bouquet to come crashing down on you while you have people over. So I'm going to put a lot of glue in it. I'm going to glue that down into my truck bed. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue these two together. And the way you want to do that is you want to put some glue right here in the middle. Oh my goodness, I just ran out of glue, but thankfully I have some here on my drawer, and I hope it's the size. Yes, it is. All right, so make sure that you're generous. I'm going to put that down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in the middle right here. But then what I want you to do is I want you to get some of your steaks. These are skewers that you use to grill, and I usually have them here on my drawer. And what I want to do is I'm going to grab a skewer, then I'm going to go ahead and put that all the way down like this. Then I'm going to grab another one right here, make sure that goes all the way down. And I'm going to grab my wire cutters and I'm going to cut all the way down, and that's going to secure my foam. I'm gonna do a third one, and you might want to do it also on an angle like this, and there is no way that foam is gonna go anywhere. It's secure together. All right, so then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna cover some of the perimeter of this bed to cover the foam. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put some moss down, make sure that all of our mechanics. Oh my gosh, what is the tag doing here? Let me go ahead and cut that. Thumbs up if you guys are enjoying these videos. I just wanted to put this collection together of full DIYs so you're inspired to create something in your home. Now keep in mind, this is just an inspiration. If you want to replicate it, well, go ahead and follow the steps. But I just really want to give you ideas on how you can create your very own DIYs this fall season for your home. It's going to be so much fun, and I cannot wait to come back with all of the ideas that I have for you guys. All right, let me spin it around, make sure that I covered all of my moss. You can grab your knife and just push that moss. We want to make sure that you don't see that foam. All right, so far so good. I'm gonna leave it just like that. Okay, so the first thing I want to add is going to be the greenery, and I'm going to start with this eucalyptus. You want to start right here on the truck, on the bed of the truck, and remember what happens on the left happens on the right, so that's why you always want to go ahead and then do opposites to make sure that you have a balance on your arrangement. So I'm going to add yet another one right here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come directly over to this side and just make sure that you have some for the top, because you want to make sure that all of your perimeter is, you know what, I'm going to get rid of this Lazy Susan just because I don't want that to be happening the whole time I'm working on this. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right here. And then what I want to do is I'm going to add some of this beautiful olive, and I want to cut it a little bit shorter. So I'm going to make sure that it goes there. What happens on the right happens on the left, like this. I just want like a little tree of greenery to cover those mechanics. I'm gonna go ahead and add one right here. Then I'm gonna come opposite to this side, over on this side. I cannot wait to read your comments, so leave me a comment down below and let me know if you've learned something here, Ramon, at home. I wanna know what was your favorite trick that you ever learned from watching this channel. And if you are as excited as I am for the fall season, you guys, is here. And I just love this time of the year because it's the colors and the smells and just the textures. It's just so much fun. All right, so I have my truck bed all full with my greenery, and so basically we're just trying to cover the mechanics. Okay, so the very first thing I want to start with is going to be some of these beautiful sunflowers, because the truck has a sunflower detail right here, and I want it to be a little bit more on the farmhouse style, so I chose this cream sunflower instead of the orange sunflower. So I'm gonna add one right here facing to you guys, and I'm gonna add one right here facing to me, and then I'm going to add a third one, but I want it to be right here in the corner. And remember to always create that triangle that we're talking about on the floral design to have a balance on your truck. So then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab this really pretty Daisy Mom, and I'm gonna use this as the flyaway, and look what this does right here. So it just extends the shape of your arrangement. So I'm gonna come over to this side. I'm gonna cut this one in two, because I wanna make sure that I have enough for my whole truck. Look how pretty that is. It's so dainty and dangly, and I'm gonna make sure that I bend down a little bit so it spills forward like this. Then I have one more that I'm going to cut to make two, and I'm always telling you, do not be afraid to cut your florals because you already paid for them. So might as well just make them do what you want them to do. All right, so just like that, I'm gonna cut this one short. And you would think that I would get rid of this piece of greenery, but since you already have it, might as well and go ahead and add it to the mix. And that just adds more texture to your bouquet, and it helps you cover the mechanics a little bit better. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna add some of this pumpkin pick. So I'm gonna add two of them. I'm gonna give it a little bit like this, and I'm just going to add this one right here on the top to add a little bit of that berry and a little pumpkin. Then I'm gonna come over to this side, and I'm going to insert in the exact same spot like that. Okay everyone, so I love the way this looks. However, I do feel like it needs a little bit more of a detail to look a little bit more fallish. So what I brought is some of these pumpkins, and notice that I chose the green kind. I got a pumpkin and a gourd. They have those same shades of ivory and sage, and so it is not the orange typical of fall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one right here, making sure that it goes all the way down on my foam, and then I'm going to add one more up here so it looks more plentiful and bountiful, and so that's going to help it really give us that fall. See how it just added that full feel to it. All right, so then I'm going to put this to the side because I want to make a bow real quick. I want to add some touch of modern to this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a cute little bow, and I'm going to grab my scissors and start by dovetailing this ribbon real quick because it's easier to just do it fast enough. All right, so you want to get probably about a 4-inch tail, and it's going to be just a little detail, so you want to make sure that it's not overpowering the truck. So I'm going to do probably like a 3-loop bow, but it has to be rather small. smaller than normal at least. You know, we like to do big bows here, Ramon, at home, but you want to make sure that it's not gonna overpower the truck, and it's just gonna add that little farmhouse feel to it. Oh, it's kind of like my shirt, I just noticed. All right, so I'm gonna cut right here. We'll dovetail in a second, but what you want to do is you want to grab your stake with a wire. I'm always telling you guys, if you don't have any of these stakes with a wire, you have to go out and shop for some. All right, so now I'm gonna do is dovetail this right here. We're gonna flip one tail up, one down. Okay, everyone, so I just want to give you a close-up of what the truck turned out to look like. And I just love the detail of the sunflower right here on the truck and how it really blends in with the sunflowers on the top. The gourds and the pumpkins really give it that full feel, and the color really does make it look farmhouse style. And I think the perfect detail, it's the black and white bow. It makes it look a little bit more modern. I cannot wait to read your comments, so leave me a comment and let me know, what do you think? All right, wait, we're gonna continue with a beautiful fall lantern that is super easy, and it will make a statement in your home this fall season. Okay, so the next step is to decorate the outside of our lantern, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm gonna start with my burlap ribbon. So I'm gonna get it out of this little roll, and I wanna give it a tail probably about, I wanna say about 10 inches. I'm gonna dovetail the end first. I'm gonna measure it like that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna pinch, and I'm gonna give myself about a 5-inch loop. Remember, there's going to be some greenery, so we want it to be very prominent. And I don't know if you know, but the way to check if your tails are even is to fold them down like this. And I can already tell this one's taller just by pulling like this. So what I need to do is I need to give it a little give, pull back down, and look, now they're perfect. So I'm gonna stop right there, and then I'm going to introduce my shiny ribbon. I'm gonna drop it on the floor, and I'm gonna give it a shorter tail, about 2 inches shorter. I'm gonna introduce the tail right there. Then I'm going to pinch right here about the same size of my other bow. I'm gonna add right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna add one more burlap bow. But this time I wanna make sure that it's about 2 inches shorter than the last one. So they stagger together like this. And then you just pinch. Make sure you fluff as you go. The beauty of this ribbon is that it's not printed, so you don't really have to worry about twisting. Just make sure that you pinch really good. And so now I'm gonna do the same with this other ribbon. Look how easy this was to create this beautiful bow with 4 loops. And I'm gonna go ahead and just basically bend right there and pinch right here on the bottom. Super easy and simple. I'm gonna give this one another bow because I want it to be the prominent ribbon. So I'm basically just gonna pinch right here, and then I'm gonna come over to this side. And then I'm gonna pinch one more time, and that's going to be our end tail right there. So now we have 3 of the printed, 2 of the burlap. And you know what? I have just enough ribbon for maybe 1 more. So let's see what that looks like. You know, that's all about playing with these bows. Yeah, I think it needs it. Look at that. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it yet another one here. And now we have enough ribbon just for another tail. So now I'm gonna grab my wire, and I'm gonna go through all of this without letting go of your core and pulling really, really tight like this. And then you twist. And now that it's twisted, you can really fluff these bows. Make sure that they all show. Oh, this one's not dovetail. Remember what I tell you about dovetailing? Did you ever had a ribbon that was not dovetail? Leave me a comment down below and let me know if you ever not dovetail your ribbon. I don't know anyone that, well, I've been to a few homes, but if you are a crafter, you know you have to dovetail your ribbon, right? All right, so the finessing of the ribbon is what takes the longest, because you want to make sure that you pull every single one of them like this. And perfect. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab these 2 right here, and I'm gonna stagger them together like this, and I'm gonna bend some of them like that over to that side because I want them to drip over to the other side. And then this one right here, I want to make sure that all of these branches do show. And so this will be our core right here. That's where I'm going to introduce my ribbon, and I'll make sure that all the tails are going down. Just make sure that you pull really tight, and then you spin it around like this. All you have left is to tie your swag for your lantern. Make sure that you do it really tight, and then hide that wire. And what you want to do is you want to go ahead and fluff all of your bows and dovetail some of them. Like this one, I feel like it needs to be shorter, so I'm just gonna go ahead and dovetail a little bit shorter. Don't be afraid to cut your ribbons. I'm always telling you guys to don't be afraid, and just make sure that all of your bows and ribbons are going the same way. I'm gonna put this on my Lazy Susan to be able to spin it around my way. Then pull some of these down like this. Okay, so I just want to give you a quick look at the end product, and I just love how bountiful this looks. The candle just gives it that warm fall feeling, and I absolutely love the way this turned out. As you guys can see, creating a beautiful lantern is super easy, and it can be really affordable. I cannot wait to read your comments. We are going to finish this video with a gorgeous fall arrangement on a pumpkin that is made out of ceramic. You guys, my intention is to show you the step-by-step and to give you tips, tricks, and hacks on how you can create beautiful arrangements, wreaths, swags, and all kinds of arrangements for the home for the fall season 2026. Let's take a look. All right, everyone, so to get this gorgeous centerpiece started, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna cut some of this fall fern foliage. And if you've been following the channel, then you know that I like to cut all of my foliages and flowers all at the same time and use them that way as well, because it is faster and you get a more balanced look when you're doing that. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this guy right here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and pick some of these guys, and I'm just gonna start inserting this into my glue and then into the foam. And so basically I'm gonna do the same steps that I always tell you guys about. You know, if you go to your right, you need to go to your left, and vice versa. So I'm gonna start on my right, I'm gonna dip into my glue, and then I'm gonna go right here to my left, directly to the left. Then I'm gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing, like this. Now this is going to be a centerpiece, and I'm super excited because making centerpieces, it's my favorite thing here on the channel. I've done so many of them, and I'm gonna put a playlist right now on the screen so you guys can check out all of the fall centerpieces that we've done here at Ramon at Home. So if you are looking for a centerpiece idea, then you'll be able to find it. All right, so now that I've done my 4 corners, I'm gonna go ahead and start by doing up on the top what I call the crown. And if you guys don't know what I'm using, this is a steel pick machine. This is a florist or a crafter item that I really recommend. If you make this to sell, then I really do recommend you get yourself one, because they really do come in handy. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab another one right here. Perfect, so that's what it looks like right now. It's looking really good. But then to contrast, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna bring some green foliages. That is to kind of highlight all of these fall foliages, you have to use a green. Now think of when you're going, when I lived in the Midwest, I used to go out running on this beautiful trail, and my favorite thing was to see when fall came, to see the greenery change. You know, you get the fall colors, and then also you get your greenery, because you have all these evergreens. At least in Kansas, we had all these evergreens, and so they stay green this whole time, and then you get all of your fall colors. So I like to use some green when I'm making fall centerpieces and sash. All right, let me add one more. So it just gives it a different feel, and I just love it. I love it. All right, I'm gonna cut one more to go all the way around so it's very even. I'm gonna go ahead and pick it and then dip a little bit into the glue. I'm gonna go ahead and insert that and just swirl it down like that. Look how wispy it is. That is one thing about good quality greeneries. They really do look realistic. and they also just create so much texture. Let's see, where do I need one? I think I need one right here. Perfect. Oh, how gorgeous is that? So far, so good. All right, so then what I want to add is I'm gonna add some of this Himalayan grass, and you guys know I am crazy over Himalayan grass. It is one of my favorite things to design with, whether it is fresh or silk, because look how much texture you get from your Himalayan grass. It is so pretty. Okay, I'm gonna add one right here to the crown. And then I'm gonna swirl around like that. And on this occasion, what I wanna do is I wanna do a triangle. So I have one down here, one on the top. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add one to the bottom. Right here, and that's all I'm gonna use for this particular foliage. All right, everyone, so for my florals, I'm gonna go ahead and use 5 of these pinch peonies and 4 sunflowers. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start once again, as I told you before, just adding 1 flower at a time. I'm gonna dip it into my glue, and I'm gonna go ahead in here. Then I'm gonna go and bring it down. Then I'm gonna do the same with this one right here. And I'm gonna go ahead and dip a little bit into my glue. Then I'm gonna open up this space right here, and I'm gonna go right there. I want a set of 3, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut me one more. I'm gonna cut the longest one, which is this one right here. Then I'm gonna go ahead and pick it. And then I'm gonna go right here, I'm gonna create a triangle. You guys know that I always like to add this infamous triangle right here. So that's what that's gonna look on that side. Then I'm gonna grab some of these peonies, and I'm gonna start up here on the top with some of the tall ones. And so basically I'm gonna add some of this glue. I'm gonna start up here, like that. All right, so then I have these 2 bats right here. So what I wanna do is, first of all, take the tag off. And then what I'm going to do is I wanna kinda pick them like that. So one of them is taller than the other one, so I have to cut the excess from that one. And that is another benefit of picking your own flowers, because then you can create, instead of having 1 flower, I'll show you right here, you have this pick with 2 flowers, and always give them a little bent so they look more natural. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this guy up here, like that. Then I'm gonna turn it a little bit, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add my last sunflower. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm gonna cut all of the excess, and I want you to see that this one has all these foliages. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dip it into a little glue, the whole stem. We don't wanna waste any of these foliages. Then you open your foam like that, and then you insert all that, like that. All right, so I have some of these picks, and what I like about this, because they have the gourds and the foliages already on them. So basically you just have to fluff them up. I'm gonna go ahead and dip this into my glue right here, and I'm gonna add one right here, right by the flowers. And that, as you can see right here, just add some pumpkin to it. Then I'm gonna do the exact same with this guy right here. This one has a gourd and a pine cone. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up some of this foliage right here, and then just go ahead and insert that, and then pull it down like so. I'm gonna do one more over here. So basically just fold it in half like that. Make sure your foliage doesn't go in the glue. Then I'm gonna go ahead right here with the sunflowers, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put it right there. So that way it gives it a little bit of a pumpkin feel to it, and it just a little bit of character. All right, everyone, so then I have one of these pumpkins that is made out of this grapevine, and I'm gonna go ahead and just dip it into my glue right here, and I'm gonna add it. Make sure this glue is not going to burn you. Add it like that, and then just go ahead and sort it like that. And I'm gonna grab a second one. I'm gonna give it a bend like this, and then a bend like this, and I'm gonna cut a little bit of the excess right here. I'm gonna dip into my glue, and I'm gonna go opposite to where I put that one. I'm gonna swirl around, and I'm gonna put it right here, maybe right here. So open all of your foliages, and just dip that in, pull, and then bring it down. All right, so I'm really liking the way this is looking. It's looking really full and really lavish and just absolutely gorgeous. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab one of these pumpkins that is made out of foam. I'm gonna get some of these stems, and I'm gonna just go ahead and insert this stem into my pumpkin, so that way I make a pick. So I'm gonna make 2 of them to add to my bouquet. All right, so far so good. I think this is going to be really cute. So basically I'm just gonna add this right here. I'm gonna find a space like right here by this guy. Then I'm gonna go ahead and insert and just push. As you guys can see, you can see it right there. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do the same with this guy right here. I'm gonna cut a little bit of the excess. I'm gonna dip a little bit into the glue. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add this guy right here. All right, everyone, so the last step, we're gonna add some of this eucalyptus that I absolutely love, and that's what's gonna make it look tall and very lavish. So basically, I'm just gonna go ahead and poke it in here like that, and then we're gonna give it a little fluff. And this is very reminiscent of our door hanger that we did on the bucket and then turned into arrangement. If you guys have not seen that bouquet, I'm gonna link it up right now so you can check it out. All right, everyone, so now that you've seen what our really beautiful bucket hanging piece looks in our door, I wanna show you why I made it into that paper mache. It's because if you were to get tired of it and if you wanted to change it to a wreath or a swag, which we will be making later on in this season, you can buy one of these wooden boxes and you can literally just lift out your paper mache from your container, and then you can go ahead and put it on a box right here, and you can just go in with some of this moss that you can find at any of your local craft stores, and you can go ahead and cover your container like this, and you will have something beautiful for a side table, for an entry table, or anywhere in your home. As you can see, it was super easy to make, very fun, and dual purpose. What a winner. It is all very cohesive, and I also love the way this is looking. All right, well, that's all I have for today. I really hope that you are enjoying the full season 2026. Stay tuned for more DIYs coming your way. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. And as always, you can watch more videos right now. Until next time, bye.